world committed to inclusive education over 30 years ago, yet we're still grappling with being able to include every child in the classroom. And one of our fundamental issues is that we don't actually know what inclusive education is. We think we do. We think it's where all children can go to school and they can have a good quality education. But what does that actually mean? That's quite ambiguous. What do we mean by all children? What do we mean by education? What do we mean by quality? So often what we find is that inclusive education is boiled down into this very simplified, universal idea. But in reality, that's not what inclusion is all about. Every single human being is different. So that means our needs and our experiences are also different. So what might make one child feel included in the classroom may not work for another child. And life changes. So what might work for us one day might not work for us the next day. So actually, it's quite difficult to say that inclusive education is just one universal thing, because it's going to be different for different people, and it's going to be changeable for individuals as well. So what I propose is that we start to think of inclusive education as a multifaceted concept. And what I mean by that is that we need to start thinking about it as many different things to reflect the many different experiences that many different people have. So my research has indicated that there's at least 6 different versions of inclusion in the classroom. There's academic, there's social, there's agency, there's well-being, there's placement, and there's identity facets. And actually there may be more than that, because my research is just a snapshot of a certain group at a certain time. But what it shows us is actually inclusion is not just one thing. There's at least 6 different things going on in that classroom. And actually within those, there can be differences too. So for example, we may talk about social inclusion, but we might be talking about relationships like friendships or relationships between students and teachers. We may be talking about collaboration, about how people can work together, even if they're not friends. We may also be talking about community, so the classroom community or the school community or the wider community. So actually we can talk about these different versions in lots of different ways too. And they can also impact each other, both positively and negatively. For example, if a student feels happy and safe, that is going to impact how included they feel in terms of well-being. But what that also does is it makes them feel like they're more able to do the learning. So it has an impact on academic inclusion too. And there are other impacts that it has as well. We can also have negative impacts too. So for example, you may find that in a classroom, if a child is feeling very socially included because they get to sit next to their friends and chat, then it might have a negative effect on their academic learning, because it may be that they don't do the work and they're not paying attention and putting the effort in because they're distracted by their friends. Now that's just two simplified examples because, as we know, it's complex and changeable and different for different people. But what it illustrates is actually inclusive education is messy. It's complex. And sometimes there are tensions and dilemmas because it may be that one version or a dimension within that version competes with another version or another dimension. Or it may be that what we need to do for one child to make them feel included may actually make another child feel excluded, and we might not be able to satisfy both of those children all of the time. So that's a tough choice, isn't it? That's difficult for teachers and schools to handle because there are contradictions, there are tensions, there are dilemmas. And that means that inevitably we have to make compromises and trade-offs. We have to think, what can we do that's the best for the most? And sometimes that means that there will be some children that do feel excluded. Maybe not all of the time, but at least some of the time. And that's quite hard to sit with that truth, isn't it? Because that's not what we want to do. But I suggest that actually if we embrace the fact that these things are going on, it's going to make our lives a lot better and a lot easier in terms of inclusive education. Because if we're open and honest and transparent about what's really going on and what is really happening, then we can think about what this concept of inclusive education is, so that we can then try and think about it more creatively, come up with more innovative solutions that are going to be more effective and more realistic. It's not about blaming individual children, blaming individual parents, teachers, or schools. It's about thinking about what can we do with our understanding of inclusive education so that it's actually fit for purpose, so we can do the best that we can do for all children and young people.